Hello, my friends. It's Nick. It's the ASMR nerd. And today I've got a full-on keyboard review for you. It's been a little while, but this is actually the first of a series of keyboard reviews that you're going to be seeing over the course of the summer. I've got a lot of keyboard content planned for you guys, so I hope you're excited about that. I sure am. Today, to kick things off, we are looking at a really interesting keyboard, a very premium kind of product. This is the DAREU A84 Pro. DAREU is a Chinese manufacturer of not just keyboards, but also they make their own switches and keycaps, and they have products that run the gamut from budget all the way up to this more premium position product. In fact, the A84 Pro is their flagship keyboard, and it packs in a ton of very desirable features. It kind of ticks all the boxes for the most popular premium enthusiast grade features in mechanical keyboards today. It's got a compact and ergonomic 75% layout. It's got a gasket mount system that provides vibration isolation and sound dampening. It's got silicone dampening layers with pour-on foam to further tweak and massage that sound profile into exactly what they want it to be. It's got hot swap sockets, but it also comes from the factory with factory lubed linear switches. It's got RGB backlighting. It's got an RGB Light Bar, which is a very unique aesthetic feature. It's also got 3 connection modes, including a wired USB-C, 2.4 gigahertz with a USB receiver, and Bluetooth connectivity. Oh, and by the way, did I mention that it's got a full, solid, heavy anodized aluminum chassis? So with a spec list like that, as you can imagine, it doesn't come in especially cheap. The DAREU A84 Pro usually retails for around $270 US currently at Banggood.com, who provided today's review sample. It's on sale for $250 US. And if you use the discount code down below in the video description and my affiliate link, you can save an additional $40, bringing it down to a little over $200 US and supporting the channel while you're at it. But around $200 US, this becomes a very interesting product because that is a highly competitive space occupied by a bunch of mainstream premium products. It's not quite the astronomical cost of some of the more bespoke sort of group buy oriented products that many mechanical keyboard enthusiasts like to invest in, but it is getting towards the top end of what mainstream consumers are looking to spend on a mechanical keyboard. So this keyboard is very well positioned in terms of pricing, especially if you use that discount code, and also well positioned in terms of its feature set. But this was my first product from DAREU that I've ever laid my hands on, and I really wasn't sure what to expect out of it. I don't want to give away the outcome of this review, although if you want, you can always use the chapter markers down in the play bar there and in the video description to jump around to wherever you would like to go in the review. But let me just say that I came away quite surprised by this product, just like you are going to be surprised by this transition to today's sponsor, Into the AM. Into the AM are sellers of elevated everyday apparel. That's their slogan. But what it means is that they sell awesome clothes that look eye-catching and amazing, that are super comfortable, that are very easy to care for, that are of excellent quality. The materials are fantastic. These graphic tees, their flagship products, are super soft, a little bit stretchy, really nicely fitted, very flattering in my opinion, and they come with all kinds of awesome exclusively licensed designs, like this badass one right here. We've got this like undead king on his throne. We've got a moon in the sky. He's got a cool spear or something going on there. This is metal AF. It's just emblematic of the incredible diversity of designs they have. So if you've never been over there before, make sure you head on through that link down below in the video description. Click on through and see what they have for you, because I'm sure they have something that you will love. And even better, you can save 10% off your entire order using offer code the ASMR Nerd, and by clicking through on that affiliate link down in the video description. And when you do so, a portion of your purchase comes back to support the channel, which many of you have already done, and I really, really appreciate. Thanks to all of you who have supported the channel with those purchases, and especially those of you who've come back and let me know how much you love your Into the AM swag, because it's really good stuff. I wear these t-shirts almost every day, and I will remind you that it's not just graphic tees that they do. They have all kinds of awesome, high quality, great looking, easy wearing clothing, including shorts, which I've been wearing a lot. Their shorts are very comfortable, perfect for the summer months coming up, just like their awesome graphic tees, which will keep you looking icy even in the heat of the summer. So once again, head on down to the video description, check out their awesome selection of all kinds of elevated everyday apparel, and make sure that you save some money using that discount code, the ASMR Nerd, and that link there, which also will support the channel when you purchase through it. So big shout out to Into the AM. A thank you for supporting and sponsoring today's video, and shout out to anyone who picks up some Into the AM swag with that link. I really appreciate it as well. And here we have the DAREU A84 Pro in box, and it's a pretty nice looking box. It's very refined looking. It's got this matte sort of textured black, and we have the brand DAREU here, A+. Maybe that plus is for Pro, I don't know, not sure, but it is the A series, so that makes sense. And they have really used a lot of restraint in this packaging, actually, in that there is nothing else going on. We've got nothing on top, we've got nothing on the ends, and nothing on the front edge, and even nothing on the back, except for just a little sticker with the SKU and that sort of thing on it. It says A84 Pro there, but it doesn't say anything about the switch type or any color information. This does come in 3 colorways, I believe. I have the black one here, at least should be what this is. It also comes in a red and a sort of a pink and rose gold looking colorway. They're all pretty wild aesthetically. The black is the most reserved of them all, from the pictures anyway. So the plain aesthetic of the box kind of doesn't really represent what's inside, I don't think, but we shall see. So that's all there is to the outside. Let's open it up, shall we? It's a nice thick cardboard, matte black on the inside too. This would definitely be a good storage box. You could use it to store the keyboard if you're not using it, or store other stuff. Inside we are greeted with more black. We've got what appears to be probably an accessories box over here, with cable and things, I'm guessing. And a layer of protective foam. So this keyboard should be nicely protected. And there we have the keyboard. Well, sort of. We actually have a user guide, and on top of that we have a plastic dust cover. But you can see the whole unit is very nicely nestled within this protective foam, which is always good to see. Honestly, this is a fairly premium looking kind of presentation, as it ought to be, considering the price. So, you know, clean, refined, well protected. Looks great so far. Let's remove the dust cover. This again you could use on top of the keyboard if you wanted to protect it. Not that I don't think anyone ever really like puts those on their keyboard at the end of the day when they're done with it, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you do. I don't know. I never have. This looks to be the user guide, which is just a single piece of paper, cardboard. Could be just the quick start guide. Hard to say. Hard to know though, because it's all in Chinese, except for here where it says A84 Pro DAREU mechanical keyboard. On the flip side, we have some little pictographic information here. We've got a switch clearly, the back left corner of the board, probably a mode switch, some LEDs, some pairing information here. It is a triple mode, as is fairly popular these days. So we've got the wired connection, the Bluetooth connection, and the 2.4 gigahertz USB dongle connection. Some secondary functions, it looks like, maybe for rotating through colors, not quite sure. Can switch between Windows and Mac mode. I'm hoping there might be something a little more comprehensive in here, maybe with a little bit more English on it, but I'm not hopeful. Or I'm hopeful, I'm not confident. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, but here we get our first look at the keyboard itself, protected in a soft plastic bag, looking very nice through the plastic. Let's lift it out. Oh, it's heavy, you guys. That is a solid chunk of aluminum. Except there's something rattling in there. Interesting. I have a feeling that might be the volume roller. Yeah, it is. When I hold it, it stops. Interesting. But I won't hold that against it. We'll see how it is. But I will say it's heavy. Oh gosh, like almost dropped it. It's a solid chunk of aluminum. You know, plastic keyboards, all good. Can sound very, very nice, but there's a weightiness you get from a solid aluminum board that just confers a different feel that you just can't get with plastic, really. Okay, let's, gosh, you can hear it clunking. I place it down over there. Oh, would you look at that? We do have a extended user guide. So that was just a quick start guide there. And, oh, no. I lied. This is a warranty card. I thought this would be a... Oh no, it's both. Okay, thank goodness. We've got 3 guarantees. Count them, 3. I don't know what that means. Thank you for your support to DAREU products. We will wholeheartedly provide you with excellent service. Warranty period. Bought from online stores, 1 year. Okay, interesting. Wonder why they have a distinction for physical versus online. For mechanical keyboards, of quality problem happens within 1 year of purchase, product needs maintenance, freight charges shall be borne to buyer. So you gotta pay the shipping to send it back. That's not so good. Lots of Chinese still. And this is what we saw in the quick start guide already. So we're not going to get any help here, I don't think, in terms of English. Nonetheless, I'm sure we can still figure it out from the little pictograms. And then it's just the old foam in here. That's that. We do have our little accessories box here, so let's just bring that out. Put the foam back in, put that all over there. And let's see what's in here. Once again, nondescript black box. We have a USB Type A to USB Type C cable. Very glad to see it's Type C. Glad to Type C. I think I make that joke every time. I gotta stop that. But it's not braided. It's just a basic black PVC cable. No aluminum housings or anything. Honestly, the cable feels a little cheap for the price range of this board, but I'm sure it will get the job done. And, you know, if you're buying this board, maybe you've already got a nicer USB cable that you use anyway. Maybe a coiled cable or a limo connector or something. Got a very basic keycap puller and switch puller combo. It is the good type, just to say, not the loop style keycap puller. This is kinder to your keycaps, but feels pretty cheap overall. You know, no branding, nothing special. But again, should be functional, at least. Okay, and got a few extra keycaps here for funsies. We've got kind of a Halloween theme here, actually. It's like orange and black, but it's a very light orange. I don't dislike it. Like, I think it looks pretty nice, actually. But these are PBT double shot keycaps. So PBT is a type of plastic that is resistant to shine and wear. So it should maintain its nice matte finish rather than shining up the way other kinds of plastic like ABS would. And it's got a fairly distinct sound signature, fairly high-pitched kind of sound signature that can change the way the board sounds or affect it, you know. Double shot, meaning it's two pieces of plastic fused together. We've got the outer piece and the inner piece, which comes through to make the legend. That means there's nothing printed on here. It's literally just fused pieces of plastic, and so those legends will never wear out. They will last effectively forever. Generally, the texture is a little bit grainy, but not unpleasant. Maybe slightly more textured than your average keycap. These look to be cherry profile, which is a little bit shorter than OEM. That's pretty typical. It's a standard profile. And the thickness looks pretty good. Not the thickest keycaps I've ever seen, but thick enough that there's very little flex even on a longer cap like this. The legends appear to be of pretty good quality. Nice and sharp. Closed characters, so no stencily look to it or anything like that. And reasonably consistent as well in terms of spacing, although we've got a little scratch on this one, looks like. That's too bad. So in terms of extras, we've been given colorful arrow keys. We've been given a non-colorful escape cap. I assume that the colorful version is already on there. Same with the enter. And we've been given a accent colored spacebar. So I guess, yeah, the black one's already on there. So you can kind of mix and match those as you like to customize a little bit. Not a lot of spare keycaps, but hey, anything's appreciated. Okay, and that's it. Nothing else. Except for a box that sounds really nice. Okay, so time for the keyboard itself. Let's figure out how to get into this. I see. Ta-da! So there is our A84 Pro. Again, this is the black colorway. I will point out that this sort of orangey gold and gray aesthetic, it is pictured on the store page on Banggood, but further down the page in the description section, they actually depict the black one as being a black and white colorway that has kind of a piano-like look to it. Clearly that's not what they're shipping. They're shipping this goldenrod, maybe you call that color, sort of gray, two-tone gray and goldenrod colorway, which again I think is attractive. Like, I think it's nice, but just be aware that what's down in the description there doesn't fully reflect all the colorways. And then of course we have this. This is the RGB Light Bar, and this is actually what drew my attention to this keyboard in the first place. So it looks like it's got a little protector on it here, which is very good to see. Oh yes, very satisfying. So presumably that's just a stripe of LEDs that will change colors and such. But it's just a cool aesthetic. It just adds something that a lot of keyboards don't have. And I hope it looks good in action. Up here we have a slightly rattly volume roller. So it scrolls and it clicks when you press on it, but it's definitely not. See, it actually moves back and forth a little bit in there. It needs maybe some like a little padding piece on that end or this end or something to stop it from moving and rattling. Shouldn't be a problem in just normal use, like when you're typing. I doubt it's going to make any noise, but when you're moving it around, it does. Well, actually, it's not anymore. So maybe it just had to just settle into place. I don't know. Anyway, so the layout that we have here is a 75% layout, which is to say we have a standard 60% keyboard here, which is the basic alphanumeric keys. We do have our F row, which is nice for people who like to have that, like I do. And we have one column of nav cluster keys along the right here, and we've been blessed with dedicated arrow keys here. Altogether, we have 84 keys, which is why it's called the A84. So, it's one of my favorite layouts, actually, this kind of layout, like a 75%-ish layout. Nice and compact, but still very, very functional. It's basically got everything you need. Let's do a little tour around here. Well, actually, let's talk briefly about the front here. So we've clearly got this sort of three-tone color effect going on here. We've got these orangey gold accent colors, which is also what graces the legends on all these double-shot PBT keycaps. Then the modifiers are in a very dark gray. One might call it black, but it's more of a dark gray. And then we've got this lighter gray on all the alphanumerics. And it looks pretty sharp. I think it looks pretty good. Then moving around here, let's come around the back. We have a handful of things that are actually really nice to see. So we've got here, this is going to be the receiver. Let's see if I can pull that out. In fact, it says right there, USB receiver. It's magnetic. So it's got a nice little slot in there. Really happy about that. And it's even branded on the top so that if you have multiple keyboards with multiple USB receivers, you can differentiate it. That's awesome. I know that's not a problem for most people, but it's a real problem for me because a lot of these keyboards, they all have just very generic receivers with no branding, and so it's easy to get them confused. And the receiver only pairs with a given keyboard, so you can't use them freely between boards. We've got USB Type-C port right here. We've got, I guess, 3 different modes probably. This is going to be off, and then maybe like wired, Bluetooth, wireless, not sure. And then a couple of buttons here. This looks to be maybe lighting. Maybe this turns backlight on and off. And this is maybe a pairing button, although I'm not sure. Fascinating. Of course, it is wireless, so there are batteries inside. 4,000 milliamp hour battery. Over here, we've got a nice little bit of branding on the back. A84 Pro serial number. Let's work our way around the sides here. From the side, a very clean side profile. With really nothing going on here. You can see that the top of the case is this nice flat looking, clean looking profile, but then we do have this piece underneath that's built into the case, which gives it a bit of an angle no matter what. So you can't get a fully flat typing experience on here, but most people don't want that anyway. Worth talking a little bit about fit and finish here. It looks very nice. We've got these nicely rounded corners and edges. It all looks quite refined, nicely tooled. The finish is impeccable. I see no issues. And we've got the DAREU branding here. Yeah, it's just this really nice anodized look all the way around. On the back, oh, interestingly, we've actually got a little sticker that gives us some information here. Mode switches here, although again, still in Chinese, but it does tell us actually USB 2.4 gigahertz, Bluetooth 1 and Bluetooth 2. So where it's at right now on the A, that is the USB mode. 1, 2, 3 are USB wireless, and then 2 Bluetooth modes for pairing to 2 different items, I guess. We've got some little rubberized feet here to prevent it from sliding around on your desk surface. Other than that, it's pretty clean back. We do have something to remove here, which just covers up the branding and certification logos and that sort of thing. Very nice. I got this shiny plastic piece here, which is actually going to focus on my ring light. That's so funny. I'm going to try to show this to you in focus, but it's tough. There we go. Designed by DAREU, made in China. 4,000 milliamp hour battery, wireless mechanical keyboard. And that is all. That is it. That's what we've got to see here. Okay. But we've got more to see around the front a little bit, don't we? So let's pull off one of these keycaps with the handy dandy keycap puller. Now, interestingly, they have furnished us with a keycap puller and switch puller combo. I don't think this thing has hot swap sockets, so I'm not sure why they've given us a switch puller, because that kind of implies that you're able to pull the switches out, huh? I don't know why they didn't just give us a keycap puller, but you know what? We're going to find out. Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe it does have hot swap sockets. However, the switches that we have in here look very interesting. So this is the sky blue linear switch, also from DAREU. They make their own switches, they make their own keycaps. You can buy those separately, but this is one of their own switches. It is a linear switch, the kind of box style enclosure. It's actually quite reminiscent of Temu switches, and evidently factory lubed. So I can confirm it is very smooth, very stable, very blue. It feels very nice. If you were to buy these on their own, you'd be paying about 50 cents a switch, which puts it, you know, smack dab in the middle of kind of the modestly priced switch range. Not truly budget, you know, it's not cheap like a Gateron Yellow or something, but it's certainly cheaper than you know, more premium switches. So it's nice though. It's nice looking. Feels pretty nice. The box enclosure does help with stability. I always really like that. And it's quite smooth, so I don't doubt that it's factory lubed. No spring ping. Nothing like that. So that looks pretty good. You can actually see we've got a kind of a beveled edge here. Chamfered, is that what they call that? I got a shiny edge on the inside here, which looks interesting. It's kind of a funny feature that you're not going to see it unless you take the keycaps off, really. But it's nice attention to detail, for sure. But what I will point out, actually, you might have noticed, if we get right up in there, when I press on here, now it's tough for you to see, but there's quite a bit of flex to the back plate. Maybe you can see it there, I don't know. Quite a bit of flex anyway, which is good, actually. We want a flexy back plate, because that usually confers a much nicer typing sound, a more muted and dampened typing sound, which is the sort of the desirable thock these days, right? And this does have a gasket mounted design, so the positioning plate, the back plate, is held in place by rubber gaskets within the case around the outside here, and underneath the back plate, but above the PCB, is a big thick layer of silicone, which provides sound dampening and vibration dampening, and probably helps contribute to that flexy kind of feel. The plate itself, though, does appear to be metal of some kind, probably aluminum, I guess. A fascinating board. Actually, you know what? We can do one more thing. Let's take a look and listen to these stabilizers. Stabilizer tuning is really difficult, and the best, you know, pre-built mechanical keyboards differentiate themselves by nailing the stabilizer tuning. but many of them don't. So let's see how this one fares. Let's start with the backspace. Not bad. Really no rattle on the way down. What you're hearing there is the top out sound when the switch rebounds. The downstroke is actually quite dampened. They clearly have some kind of pads installed underneath the stabilizer feet, which is always good to do, or always good to see. I'll bring it closer so you can hear the bottom out sound. It's pretty dampened. And the stabilizers do sound lubricated, although we will take a look and confirm in a moment. Let's just do the rounds here and hear what they all sound like before I take a look at it at the enter key. A bit more of a clack on that one, but no stabilizer rattle though, which is very good. And it feels pretty good. The right shift will actually not be stabilized because it's this smaller design. Left shift. Feels a lot like that backspace key, which is to say pretty good. I'd say this actually is the nicest job. These guys both have a little bit of extraneous clack. Overall, though, pretty darn good. No rattle to speak of. The space bar, notoriously hard to get right. So a little bit of rattle when we're pressing on the left side here. And a fairly sharp report. It's definitely got a clack to it. Personally, I like a slightly more dampened sounding space bar, but some people like a little bit more clack than thock, so I'd say that's not bad. I would say it's not exceptional, but it's certainly not bad. So in fact, overall, this keyboard has more clack than I expected, given the gasket mounting, the silicone dampening layer. Then underneath the PCB, it's got pour-on foam, which is going to further dampen sound. I was expecting something a little thockier, a little deeper, but I think it might be the switches themselves that are conferring this clack. I think this is the bottom out sound of the switches. And that might be to do with the bottom material of the switch housings. I don't know for sure, but something like a nylon is going to be thockier. Something like polycarbonate is going to be clackier. So maybe these are PC bottom housings. I'm not sure. Again, it's all dependent upon what you want for the sound signature. So this thing's definitely going to have some clack to it. On that note, I guess it's time that we moved on with things. So we will get to the sound test, the full sound test, where you'll hear me doing all the typing. But first of all, we have some RGB to look at. We've got this cool RGB bar. We've got the backlighting on all the keys. So we're going to do RGB next. We'll look at secondary functions. We'll make sure that all the wireless stuff is working out properly. And then we'll get to the typing test. But first of all, pretty colors. And here we have the DAREU A84 Pro plugged in and looking very colorful, as you can see. The RGB backlight is bright and saturated, and has nice smooth gradients. That's a sign of quality LEDs in my experience. So I'm pretty happy with the colors there. But the thing that immediately catches your attention after that, at least, is the RGB Light Bar right up here. And you notice it's kind of moving a bit. So that's because in its default mode, it is sound sensitive. It's based on volume. So if I were to press some keys on here, look at that. That's kind of fun. It's not the first keyboard to do that. Well, maybe it is with that particular RGB light bar like that, but I've seen other keyboards that do that with their whole backlight, so it kind of moves up and down depending on the volume it's picking up. So that means somewhere in here there's probably a very primitive microphone picking up sounds. Some people might be uncomfortable with that concept just on principle, having a microphone inside their keyboard, but it's probably pretty basic, and it facilitates that lighting effect. So let's go through some of the lighting options here, or all of them really. So we hold down function, and we press left bracket, and we can cycle through backlight options. So this is the static backlight option, and if we hold down function and press right square bracket, we can cycle through colors. We have a handful of basic colors, and then eventually we come back to the rainbow option. Seems like every effect is available in various colors, as well as the rainbow multicolored option. This is a basic left to right scroll. Sort of shooting rows of color. What's this? Fading in and out. It's a breathing effect. This is a sort of sweeping color option. This is kind of interesting. I've not seen this effect elsewhere, but it's sort of crisscrossing rows of color. And then the inside out kind of rippling effect. So these are pretty basic. That was what, maybe 6 different modes or something like that, each available in a variety of colors, but nonetheless not too many. No reactive modes for the backlight itself, and evidently no control over direction. So if you wanted this to ripple, say, inwards, I don't think that's an option. Or if you wanted, say, this one to go right to left, as far as I can tell, that's not an option. Not in hardware, and also not in software, because I don't think there is any software for this board. There is none provided on Banggood, on the store page there, and I went to DAREU's website, actually. They do have software for their basic A84, but not their A84 Pro, as far as I can tell. Maybe I just didn't look close enough, but I wasn't able to find it. So we will not be looking at software here today, and as far as I can tell, what you get in terms of lighting configurability on board is what you're stuck with. So, these effects are pretty standard, the kinds of things that we've seen on a lot of other boards, but they are reasonably well implemented. They look pretty nice. In addition, we can adjust brightness with function spacebar, so that just turns it right off. But then we have a bunch of levels of brightness. If we go, that's the dimmest. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and off again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's the brightest. A good range of brightness options to suit your environment. And on the brightest level, it's not eye-searingly bright, but it's bright enough to be seen in full light. I have, well, right now just one of my my recording lights here on, but even when I had the others on, it was still visible. And so that's good. There's not a lot else in terms of secondary function layer shortcuts. We do have some media controls. We hold down function, and under the F keys we've got play, pause, and forward, back tracks and things like that. We also have a reset option. If we hold down function escape for a few seconds, it'll reset the board to factory defaults. Other than that, of course, we do have this light bar up here. Like I said, it's in a volume sensitive mode, but remember those buttons on the back corner here? Those are to control that light bar. So let's play around with some of those options. I will turn off the main backlight just for the sake of focusing on the light bar. There we go. So the light bar is controlled separately from the backlight with these buttons. So the first option, the default one, is this rainbow volume sensitive bar. If I press the rightmost of the two buttons on the back, it kind of changes the visualization mode. So it's still volume sensitive, but now we've kind of got this like, I don't know, a little trailing bit. So now volume sensitive but comes in from the sides. Volume sensitive but comes out from the middle. This one, oh, look at that. It speeds up as the volume changes. That's fun. It's just slow when it's quiet. Interesting. Okay. This is, I guess, fading through various colors. Looks like it's just cycling through colors. But what's happening here actually is this is the rainbow mode. So I guess that's why it's cycling through, but we can actually manually override with the other button on the back and select specific color modes. I'll show you that in a moment, but let's just finish cycling through. Oh, and this is off. The other light you might notice up here is the battery charge indicator. It's red right now because it's charging, it's plugged in, but when it's fully charged, it turns green. And it's not obviously visible when it's unplugged because it's not charging, although I suspect that when it reaches low battery, I bet you that comes on red to indicate. I have not seen that, although I did use it wirelessly for a while. All right, let's keep cycling through. And then we're back to just this basic mode. So quite a few volume reactive, sound reactive modes, and then that one mode that's just kind of solid color. Now, as I was saying, you can also change the color of what's going on here. So it's in the multicolor mode right now, but if I press this other button on the back, it's kind of a different multicolor mode. Now this one is cycling through colors. Hard to tell, but if I can sort of see it cycling slowly. Now it's breathing through all the colors and like the full bar. Okay, so now we've got like a background in yellow, and then the equalizer is still, or not the equalizer, but whatever you call this, visualizer. And it looks like there's a variety of color combos for that. Or at least two. And then we're back to just our basic fixed rainbow mode here. But again, each different lighting style mode has different color options. So you can see what I mean there. And when we get to our solid, oh, I don't know what happens if okay, there's a smooth gradient rainbow, which speeds up based on sound. I see it cycles colors based on sound, I think. When we get to our solid option, by default, it's cycling through colors here, but we can press this button to set it to a fixed color. We could do that to match the keyboard if we wanted, match the backlight, I should say. So, quite a few options there, enough that you can probably find what you want anyway. And then off again. Let's set it to this inside out mode here. And sure, which mode do we want? Breathing, no. Just the basic rainbow mode, sure, let's do that. And then let's set our backlight to the ripple mode. There's kind of a pleasing symmetry there because then they're both kind of coming from the inside out, right? Inside to the outside. So that's the backlighting situation, and like I said, I think it looks pretty good. I think this RGB light bar is, you know, a bit gimmicky, but it's a unique aesthetic that I have not seen on another board before. It's kind of fun that it sounds sensitive, and I think it looks really good. Each individual square or rectangle on this light bar is very crisp, very sharp. The colors are saturated, and I think it works out pretty nicely. I think it confers a unique aesthetic to the board. And I think the backlight looks pretty good too. Now again, we don't have software to further configure it, so we are limited in our customization options, but what is here looks solid. Okay, so we do have a few different modes of operation here. We'll quickly go through them. We have the wired mode. It's currently plugged in via USB-C. Very straightforward, worked as soon as I plugged it in. No problems there. If we unplug it, boop, we now have no lights because it's not on, but we have that mode switch on the back. So if we move it to its first number 1 position there, we are now in wireless 2.4 gigahertz mode. That also works great. I plugged in the receiver, it immediately detected it, and it works just fine. So I have not had any issues with any lag or latency that's been noticeable, at least. And that USB receiver wireless mode, the 2.4 gigahertz mode, should be faster and more responsive than the Bluetooth mode. For the Bluetooth mode, we have 2 slots, basically, presumably 2 devices that we can pair with. I've actually not tried pairing it yet, so let's just see how that goes. I'm going to flip it to the Bluetooth mode here, which is where we're at right now. And it looks like the battery is flashing blue to indicate it's in pairing mode, I'm assuming. I'm going to just bring my phone over here, and I'm going to see if we compare with my phone. There we go. Now it's flashing. Just had to hold function Q. Okay, I'm going to scan again with my phone. And there it is. A84 Pro Bluetooth keyboard. Press it. Pair. And we are paired. Let me just open up something here on my phone and make sure that it does, in fact, type. It sure does. So there we go. That is nice and easy. It just took me a moment to figure out the trick with the function Q. So with a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, the wireless should last quite a while, probably days. If you have the backlight on full blast, it might be a little bit less time, but that's sufficient for certainly all-day battery life, and probably more than that as well. And that's really the story here. Like I said, we don't have a whole lot else going on in terms of secondary function layers. There's like a win-lock option with the function Windows key. You can swap between Mac and Windows style layouts, but it's pretty straightforward. And again, the 84% or 75% layout with 84 keys is really effective because you get pretty much everything you need on here without having to resort to a secondary layer for the most part. So that's great. I can also confirm that the volume wheel here does exactly what you think it does. It controls the volume. And that seems to work just great. So, okay, well, you know what comes next. Since we don't have any software and we've looked at all the lighting, I think it's time for the typing test. Let's hear how this thing sounds. Okay, so we have examined the DAREU A84 Pro pretty extensively. We've looked at the various features, the design, the build, the quality. We've looked at the RGB backlighting, the various kinds of wireless and wired functionality. And of course, very importantly, you've had a chance to see and hear it in action. So this is a part of the video where I share some of my subjective experiences using this keyboard. And really, I have come away quite surprised by this board and honestly very impressed with this keyboard. Now, I must first of all talk a bit about pricing because that's part of what recontextualized my thoughts about this keyboard. The MSRP for this board is around $270, $280 US dollars. That's getting up there for sure. However, I have routinely seen it on sale for $250 or less on Banggood. And then there's this $40 off offer code that you can find down in the video description, which brings this keyboard down much closer to that kind of magical $200 US dollar threshold. That is a very competitive space and a very compelling price point for mainstream purchasers looking for a premium keyboard. As we've talked about, this board really does check an awful lot of desirable boxes in terms of a premium keyboard. The only one that I wasn't sure about when I first agreed to do this review was the hot swap sockets. I initially thought that it did not have hot swap sockets. It's not advertised as such on Banggood's store page. However, it totally does. It's got easily removable switches, which I would hope to see in a keyboard at this price point. Which isn't to say that the stock switches are bad. They're actually quite good. The Sky Blue Linear V3 switches from DAREU are very smooth, very stable, and honestly a really solid switch. But it's the only switch type that this board is offered with, and it might be that you want something tactile or clicky. And the good news is, of course, that those hot swappable sockets will support any kind of switch that you want, 3-pin or 5-pin. So that's great news. So overall, I have really enjoyed using this keyboard. And on paper, as I said, it is a very solid board with a very impressive spec list. But truly good keyboards are more than just the sum of their parts. And I think this keyboard is one of those. I have found myself just really enjoying typing on it. You know, the basics it gets right. You know, it's the connectivity options are great. I've never dropped connection or anything like that. The battery seems to last for at least days. The RGB looks good. All the basic features are there. But the typing experience is a little harder to quantify. But from a qualitative standpoint, it is really very good. It's a keyboard that I keep wanting to come back to and interact with. That's usually my litmus test for whether a keyboard is really good. Whether I want to keep using it, keep putting my fingers on it, keep interacting with it, keep experiencing that tactile experience that the keyboard provides. And this is one of those keyboards. So that's how I know it's really good. And again, you know, you can have a great spec list on paper, but it may not come together to create that just super satisfying experience. But this one does. It's got a really nice bounciness to the typing experience, a really nice rebound feeling to each keystroke. I think a lot of that comes down to the quality of the gasket mount in this design. It just has this wonderful bouncy responsiveness that makes you want to keep typing away at it. And the sound profile took some time to grow on me, but I've come to really, really appreciate it. You know, there's kind of a trend these days in the mechanical keyboard enthusiast community to go for maximum thockiness or maximum creaminess in the typing sound. And that's all well and good. Those boards can sound very, very nice. Some boards you get kind of sound like almost like marbles being, bumped together. But this keyboard has a bit more of a clacky sound signature, which may not do it for everyone. But like I said, I've actually come to really enjoy it. It's a very satisfying tactile kind of report, despite the fact that it's got those linear switches. I think that the stabilizers in this are very well tuned, well above average. Maybe not the very best I've ever used, but really solid from the factory. The only key that I'm not totally sold on is the space bar. It's just a little too hollow and clacky for me. It's not bad, but it's not got a lot of rattle or anything. But a little more dampening on the space bar would have gone a long way, I think. However, everything else is really well controlled in terms of sound and in terms of rattle, and it just presents a really satisfying sound signature all around. Not quite what I was expecting, but really very nice now that I've spent some time with it. Of course, the build quality is really impressive with this heavy block of metal. Anything that has this much aluminum in it and weighs this much is immediately going to add about $100 to the price of the board. And so when you consider that this whole package is available for around $200, a little more, but around the $200 price point, when you use that discount code down in the video description, this becomes a very compelling offering. The only nitpick that I really have with the build quality is this slightly rattly volume roller here. It's not a deal breaker by any stretch. You don't notice it in normal use. It's really only when you're sort of playing around with it that it's noticeable. And, it's just a slight fitment issue, but everything else is really nicely machined. No flaws at all in the finish anywhere. It all comes together as this very appealing, cohesive package that, like I said, of the best keyboards, comes together to be more than the sum of its individual parts. So on paper, everything is there, it ticks all those boxes, and in practice, I think it actually excels beyond what the mere spec list would suggest, which is not necessarily what I was expecting of this board. I don't know what I was expecting, but the price point, the MSRP, always sets an expectation, and I guess it's the combination of feeling like it's more than the sum of its individual parts, more than the sum of its spec list, but also the recontextualized pricing with the $40 discount from that coupon code, which puts it in, like I said, that very competitive pricing point around the $200 mark. So overall, really enjoyed my time typing on this board, using this board. It has surprised me, and I like it more than I thought I would. So I think that's a pretty strong endorsement, I suppose. But that's just my sort of subjective usage opinions. Let's run down in a more quantitative kind of way the pros and cons of the DAREU A84 Pro before I give you my final verdict. You guys know me. I like to start positive. Let's start positive with the pros. There's a lot of them here. This list kept growing as I thought about it and adding more and more stuff to it. First thing on the list is what grabs your attention right away, which is that heavy aluminum build. Not only does it have a lot of aluminum in there, which confers a feeling that only a dense aluminum case can, but also the fit and finish is really good. The machining is excellent. The anodization is flawless. There are no visible flaws or marks on the case. It's really nicely done, really nicely finished. The second thing is that gasket mount system. That is a very desirable feature in premium keyboards these days, and I feel like DAREU absolutely nails it. You get a really nice bouncy typing feel under the fingers. Not excessive, but just a nice springiness to it, a subtle rebound. It's hard to explain, but when you feel it, you know it. It's very well done. And that confers also an excellent typing sound profile with really well controlled sound, no vibration, just a nice dampened but satisfying, somewhat clacky sound signature. Part of that too is, of course, the dampening layers inside, the silicone dampening layer between the top plate and the PCB, and then the pour-on foam underneath that. Overall, it provides a very nicely controlled, dampened, but overall satisfying sound signature. A somewhat surprising but very welcome feature is, of course, the hot swap sockets. Not surprising for this price point, in fact, somewhat expected at this price point, but surprising because it wasn't listed on the store page. But if you actually go to DAREU's website, you will find that hot swap sockets are listed there, and I did go and confirm, yes, you can yank those switches out of there and put in whatever you like. However, the default switches that come with this board from the factory are actually pretty darn good. The sky blue linear V3 switches are lightly lubed. They have a pleasing smoothness to them, very little spring ping or anything like that, and they're very stable, which is, I think, in part to that box style stem. I was really impressed with them, and actually at their price point, they're a solid budget-oriented or mid-range kind of, I should say, switch option just to purchase on their own. If you're looking for a good deal on some fairly smooth and pleasing linears, you should check out those sky blue linear V3 switches as well. The good news continues to the stabilizers, which I think are very nicely tuned. Getting stabilizers tuned right is one of the most challenging things, it seems, for keyboards from the factory. Certainly for modding them after the fact, it can be quite difficult to dial it in just so. These are some really nicely done stabilizers. They are lubed, they are padded on the bottom, so they have a fairly soft bottom out and a nice smooth action that's not rattly or clacky or anything like that. The only reservation I have is the space bar, which is usually the hardest one to get right. It still sounds pretty good, quite respectable, above average, I would say, but a little too loud and clacky for my preference. A little extra dampening in there, I think, would go a long way. But overall, the stabilized keys on this board are very nicely done, well above average, and a great showing from DAREU. The overall quality of this board continues through to the keycaps, which are made of PBT plastic, nice and high quality. It's not going to shine up on you. They are double shot so that the legends are never going to wear out, literally 2 fused pieces of plastic. And the quality of those legends is very good, not stencily or anything. It has nice closed characters, nice clean lines, and the consistency of the centering and the alignment of those legends is very good. The PBT is not the thickest I've ever seen, but it's certainly respectable, and overall the keycaps feel of high quality, appropriate for this price point. The dedicated volume control roller is also a nice addition. It's sort of a unique take on the rotary encoder, the knobs that are so popular on keyboards in this kind of price range these days. I think it's relatively functional. It looks pretty good. There are some slight fit and finish issues with it where it's got a little bit of play that can be slightly rattly if you're sort of playing with it, moving it back and forth. But, you know, that's a very minor nitpick. Overall, I'm happy to see a dedicated volume roller included in the design. And while we're talking about unique design elements, that RGB light bar, yes, it's kind of gimmicky, but I really like it. I understand it might not be an aesthetic that everyone digs, but I think it's really fun. And if you don't like it, you can turn it off. Certainly, it is an eye-catching part of the design and one of the elements that drew my attention to this keyboard in the first place. So overall, I do think it's positive, and it's well implemented with lots of different visualization modes, that sound reactive mode, and nice bright saturated colors. Over here on the cons side of things, I actually have very little to say. I had a few other things on here at first, but they've all kind of fallen away as I've used the keyboard more. For instance, I didn't realize at first that it had hot swap sockets, but it totally does. That's one of my major complaints removed. However, I do have a complaint that's kind of related to that, although certainly mitigated by the hot swap sockets. That is that there's only one switch type to choose from the factory, which is those sky blue linear V3 switches. Now, they are actually really solid linear switches, and of course, if you don't like them, you can just yank them out, put in whatever switches you like, no soldering required. So this is a fairly minor point, but it would be nice if DAREU offered more options from the factory, a tactile option, a heavier linear option, maybe even a clicky option, just so that you don't have to do that extra step of putting in your own switches if you don't want to. It's just kind of weird that they only offer the one option, especially considering that DAREU manufactures its own switches. So you'd think that it would be able to offer some other switch weights and tactility options there. Nonetheless, the switches it does come with are pretty solid, so this is a fairly minor point overall. A less minor point, perhaps, is the lack of software. Now, this is a little confusing to me because DAREU does offer software for a lot of their boards, including the base A84, but it seems that the A84 Pro is not served by this software. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe they've got some coming, and I wasn't able to find any offered through Banggood's store page either. So it's unfortunate because it would be nice to control the backlighting in software. For example, to have per key backlighting options, and to be able to rebind keys and do macros and that kind of stuff. There are other third-party pieces of software you can use to get effectively the same kind of control over the bindings, just not over the backlighting. Is it a major deal breaker? Not especially, not for me, but it is just a little bit of a head scratcher. And that's everything. That's the pros and the cons laid out. You can probably tell by the weight of where the pros and the cons fall what my overall take on this board is. But what is my final verdict then? Well, I think the DAREU A84 Pro is excellent value at that 200-ish, plus or minus a bit, dollar price point, which is available to you guys up until July 31st if you use that code down in the video description. And I know it sounds like I'm pushing that a lot, and I kind of am, because it's a $40 discount, which is very solid, and it really does make this board more competitive. At its MSRP of $270 or so dollars, I think it's maybe a harder sell. That said, this board does get a lot right. It has a spec list that covers pretty much everything you want to see on a modern keyboard, which includes that gasket mount system, which is really nicely implemented with a very satisfying, springy, sprightly kind of typing feel. It's got tri-mode connections to cover your bases for wired or wireless options. It's got happily hot swap sockets, which is, I think, honestly a must on any modern keyboard at this price point. It's got nice high quality PBT keycaps and surprisingly good switches from the factory, which I've really taken to enjoying. It's got some unique aesthetic flourishes, like that volume roller in the top right, and of course the RGB Light Bar across the top, which one can argue is a bit gimmicky, but I would rather see something unique and slightly gimmicky than something just boring that everybody else is doing. Overall, the RGB is really well implemented. It's bright, it's saturated, it's got nice smooth gradients, and that light bar itself looks very crisp and appealing. And to top it all off, we've got this lovely build quality of this very solid, heavy aluminum build with very nice fit and finish throughout. The DAREU A84 Plus is, of course, available with 3 different colorways. I looked at the black one here. I think that overall aesthetically, it's really nice and appealing. Those kind of golden orange touches are quite unique and eye-catching, especially for the legends. I think they look really nice on the legends. The other colorways look really interesting as well, although I think the black one probably is my preferred of the lot. But overall, this is a great spec list, and it comes together to be more than the sum of its parts. This is what I look for in those keyboards that really elevate themselves above others. And this keyboard does it. It just really gels, and the actual typing experience is very compelling. It sounds great. It feels great. It's not going to be for everyone. Because of the price, no matter how you slice it, $200+ US is a lot for many people to spend on a mechanical keyboard. But I think that around that $200 price point, it is warranted. This is a premium board that ticks all those boxes. It would be nice to have that software support. It would be even better to have QMK support, but overall I think this is a really appealing package. And if you are looking for a 75% layout, if you dig the aesthetics that are on offer here, then I really do think this is an excellent option for your money. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of another relaxing review. I came away pleasantly surprised by the quality and the general typing experience of the DAREU A84 Pro. There was a lot of ground to cover here. I do hope that you enjoyed what we looked at here today. Big thank you to banggood.com for supplying the review sample that we looked at here today. And make sure that if you are thinking of picking up this board for yourself, you check out that discount code down in the video description to save $40 on this board. That's a substantial savings, and it certainly makes it a much more competitive option around the $200 price point. And that link, of course, is down in the video description as well. And by purchasing through that link, a portion of your purchase does come back to support the channel. Of course, I appreciate that greatly, and it's kind of a win-win if you enjoy what I do here and you want to save some money as well. Speaking of saving some money, a big shout out to this video's sponsor, Into the AM. They of the awesome t-shirts. Make sure that you take advantage of the offer code that they have down in the video description as well to save 10% on your entire offer over at their website, where you can find all kinds of fresh and beautiful looking graphic tees, among other elevated everyday apparel. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you found this informative. I hope you found it relaxing, and I look very forward to having you back here again next time for another episode of relaxing reviews. Bye for now, my friends.